What if I told you a narrow strip of water, only 33 kilometers wide, has the power to shake the entire world? Not a country, not an army, not even a nuclear weapon, just water. This is the Strait of Hormuz, a place most people have heard of, but very few truly understand. Every single day, nearly 1/5 of the world's oil passes through this tiny corridor. But here's what nobody talks about. The real danger isn't what happens inside the strait. It's what happens if it suddenly goes silent. No ships, no movement, no oil. Within hours, fuel prices explode, markets crash, governments panic, and millions of ordinary people nowhere near the Middle East, start feeling the impact. How did one narrow waterway become the world's most dangerous economic trigger? And why are the world's biggest powers obsessed with controlling it? This is the hidden story of the Strait of Hormuz. 1 week, that's all it would take. 7 days of silence in one narrow stretch of water. And suddenly, fuel prices explode, supply chains freeze, flights get canceled, factories slow down, and grocery bills climb almost everywhere on Earth. And the wild part? Most people have never even heard of the place responsible for it. The Strait of Hormuz, a thin corridor of water between Iran and Oman that quietly controls the pulse of the modern world. If you've ever filled up your car, turned on your lights, ordered something online, or eaten food shipped across oceans, this place has already affected your life. You just didn't know it. And honestly, once you see what's happening there, the military tension, the geography, the strange landscapes, the hidden villages, the glowing salt caves, you realize this isn't just another point on a map. It's one of the most important places on Earth, and maybe one of the most beautiful too. So, let's go there, because the numbers alone sound almost fake. Every single day, around 20 million barrels of oil pass through the Strait of Hormuz. That's roughly 1/5 of the world's oil consumption moving through a shipping corridor so narrow, you could practically see one side from the other. The actual shipping lanes are only about 3 kilometers wide in each direction. 3 kilometers. That's less than 2 miles. Think about that for a second. Nearly a quarter of the planet's energy supply gets squeezed through a gap narrower than some cities. And it's not just oil. Massive amounts of liquefied natural gas from countries like Qatar and the UAE pass through here too. So when experts call Hormuz the artery of the global energy system, they're not exaggerating. If this artery gets blocked, the shockwaves hit everywhere at once. Tokyo, London, Delhi, Seoul, New York. Everyone feels it. And the geography makes the whole thing even more nerve-wracking. The strait connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and then out into the Arabian Sea. Iran sits on the northern side, Oman sits on the southern side, and ships don't just wander through casually. There's a tightly controlled maritime traffic system, basically a highway in the sea, with one lane for incoming ships, one lane for outgoing ships, and a narrow buffer zone in between. Now imagine giant oil tankers longer than the Eiffel Tower is tall, trying to move through those lanes, carrying 2 million barrels of crude oil. These ships can't maneuver easily. They move slowly, predictably. And predictable routes are exactly what military planners pay attention to. Because Iran figured something out decades ago.
It doesn't need to overpower the United States Navy ship for ship. It just needs the ability to threaten this corridor. That alone gives it leverage over the global economy. So along the Iranian coastline, there are fast attack boats designed for swarm tactics, anti-ship missiles hidden along the shore, surveillance drones, radar systems, an entire network built around pressure and control. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, Oman's rugged Musandam Peninsula rises directly from the sea like a wall of stone. High in those mountains are radar stations tracking every ship moving through the strait. And then there's the US Fifth Fleet, based nearby in Bahrain. American destroyers equipped with advanced missile defense systems patrol these waters constantly. At any given moment, multiple world powers are watching the exact same narrow stretch of sea, with locked radar systems and weapons ready. And sometimes the encounters get unbelievably close. There have been moments where Iranian patrol boats and American warships moved so near to each other that sailors could literally see each other through binoculars. That's not tension. That's a lit match floating over gasoline. And if something goes wrong, even briefly, the consequences move fast. Oil prices spike, shipping routes collapse into chaos, insurance rates explode. Countries heavily dependent on Middle Eastern energy start panicking almost immediately. Japan imports most of its oil through this route. So do South Korea, China, and India. Entire economies rely on these narrow lanes staying open every single day, which is why the Strait of Hormuz has become one of the most dangerous geopolitical flashpoints on the planet. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. Beyond the military tension, beyond the warships and radar systems, this place is stunning, like genuinely surreal, the kind of beauty that almost doesn't make sense next to all the political pressure surrounding it. Take Hormuz Island itself.
At first glance, it looks like some quiet island sitting near busy shipping lanes, but the moment you step onto its shoreline, something feels different. The ground is red, not slightly red, deep, vivid, blood red. The soil here contains massive concentrations of iron oxide, and it stains the beaches so intensely that even the waves sometimes look red where they hit the shore. It genuinely looks like the island is bleeding into the sea. And somehow, it gets even stranger. Local people actually use this red earth, called gelak, in cooking. Yeah, they literally use the island itself as a spice. Probably one of the only places on Earth where you can say that. But Hormuz Island keeps changing colors as you move across it. Red hills suddenly turn orange, then yellow, purple, white. You walk through landscapes that look painted by hand. This area is known as Rainbow Valley, and it exists because the island is volcanic. Over millions of years, minerals were pushed upward through the Earth's crust, layering different colors across the terrain. Sulfur creates yellow. Iron oxide creates red. Salt creates white, and every storm subtly reshapes the patterns. So the island is never completely the same twice. It's basically a living painting. And then right beside the red beaches, there's another coastline covered in black and silver sand filled with mica and silica crystals. When sunlight hits it, the beach sparkles like shattered glass. People who walk barefoot there leave with glittering feet that take days to fully clean off. Honestly, the whole island feels less like Earth and more like another planet pretending to be Earth. And underneath all of this, there's an entire hidden world underground. Deep beneath Hormuz Island sits the Salt Goddess Cave. Walking into it feels like entering a crystal cathedral. The walls glow in white, amber, pink, and gold tones. Salt formations hang from the ceiling like frozen chandeliers. And the silence inside is almost unsettling. Salt absorbs sound incredibly well, so echoes disappear almost completely. You mostly hear your own breathing, your own heartbeat.
Locals believe the cave has healing energy, and interestingly, the high salt concentration in the air can actually help people with respiratory issues. So hidden inside one of the most militarized waterways on Earth, there's this quiet underground sanctuary made entirely of salt and silence. That contrast is hard to wrap your head around. Now cross the water to Keshem Island, the largest island in the Persian Gulf. Keshem is enormous compared to Hormuz, and the geology here feels almost unreal. The island is actually recognized as a UNESCO Global Geopark because the landscapes look like giant natural sculptures. One of the most famous places is Chaku Canyon. Imagine narrow limestone walls towering above you, while wind and erosion carve strange wave-like patterns into the rock over millions of years. In some sections, the canyon gets so tight you can touch both sides at once, and the silence there is intense. You hear every footstep, every breath. Local legends say ancient people carved wells into the canyon floor to collect rainwater and survive in this harsh environment long before oil tankers ever crossed these waters.
And honestly, this place feels cursed in the best possible way. The rock formations are jagged, twisted, almost alien-looking. Locals believe a star crashed into the island and created the valley. Geologists say it's simply erosion from wind and rain. But when you stand there listening to the wind whistle through the stone formations like distant voices, the meteor story starts sounding pretty believable. The landscape changes after every heavy rain too, so even the valley itself keeps evolving. And deep beneath Keshem lies something extraordinary. Namakdan Salt Cave, the longest salt cave on Earth, more than 6 kilometers stretching underground. Inside are frozen salt rivers, white crystal walls, giant salt icicles hanging from the ceiling, and layered colors running through the rock like marble. Meanwhile, above ground, oil tankers carrying the fuel supply of entire nations quietly drift through the strait overhead. It's strange, isn't it?
Human civilization stressing over geopolitics, while nature underneath just keeps existing in complete silence. And then there's the Omani side of the strait, the Musandam Peninsula. This place looks nothing like what most people imagine when they think of the Middle East. They were formed by tectonic forces and rising seawater over immense stretches of time.
The Strait of Hormuz isn't just a geopolitical pressure point. It's one of the strangest, most beautiful, most important places on the planet. And somehow, most people will go their entire lives without ever knowing it exists.